Hey there folks, happy winter steelhead season to you, and here we go. So it's early winter steelhead season, mid-December 22. We've got a few fish on the board already, and we're just hoping for some more rain and favorable conditions. So we'll see how that all goes here in the metro area of Portland, Oregon, I guess. So anyway, here we go. Here is a very versatile, simple to tie winter steelhead fly, or even summer steelhead in some conditions and places, right? But anyway, a very simple, versatile tube fly that you can tie that catches fish like crazy. This has been in these low clear conditions, this has been my productive fly so far, and has been that in seasons past. Of course, black and blue, obvious, right? But just a simple Marabou tube fly with a couple different things going on in here that'll kind of help out a little bit. But here we go. So let me pop this guy off. That's a finished one there. So of course, we're going to be using our 1.8 millimeter Aqua Flies poly tubes, and what I've done is I've prepped everything ahead of time, but I cut a nice point on the back end and then slide on the clear ultra rig tubing as a junction tube. Okay, and I will do another quick video short on how I rig these. Anyhow, let's get right into it. First thing I'm going to do is get my thread started. Right here at the back, right at the junction tube. Make sure that's good and on there. And we're going to start off with some nice Kingfisher Blue fin Racoon. And what we're going to do is take and tie a wing style tail in the back. I know it's pretty contradictory, but I'm going to tie it in as if I was doing a Scandinavian style wing with this, but as a tail, if that helps make more sense. So I'm just going to get a little bit. We don't need much in volume at all. This stuff likes to poof out in the water and kind of have a nice presence to it. So we're just going to take and maybe throw in, you know, if I were to pull it, like maybe like an eighth of a pencil's worth in thickness. And I'm not going to get rid of all the guard hairs. I want some of those guard hairs in there for just a natural shiny kind of translucent material. I could have done maybe just a scant bit more, but this will work. So we're gonna go roughly, we're looking for overall about a 2.5 inch fly. So adjust your tail length accordingly. You know, maybe 1.25 inches worth hanging out the back there. And there we go. Very simple. Just tie it on, get it good and secured in. And here's the most complex part of this fly. This is it. I'm going to take and make a very simple composite loop out of this black and UV and silver predator wrap with just a bit of dubbing. And that's going to be our, within the body of the fly, that's going to be our flash. And it's going to create a little presence there in terms of profile. So what I'm going to do first, I've got my Jerry French intruder card. I'm going to lay that down just to help with proportions. I'm going to take some black UV ice dub here and get just a little scant amount. We don't need a lot in terms of volume. We're not trying to create a big shoulder or anything here. And what I'm doing is I'm laying that dubbing down on my card 50-50 of the center line. And then I'm going to take my, about an inch worth is what I cut off of the main hank of the predator wrap. And I'm going to take and fold it over my fingers and kind of cut it so that the working end is about, you know, 1/2 to 3/4 in length of the overall actual length of that predator wrap. And then I'm going to lay it down on top of my dubbing 60-40. Okay. And then I'm just going to sandwich that in so that it ends up with just this simple little dubbing and predator wrap sandwich there. Just very simple. We can keep that aside for a second. We're going to start a dubbing loop. Take and secure the top end of that loop off. Close the top end. I'm going to get my thread forward. Throw in a little wax on that thread, just a little bit. Okay, and we're going to get it in the loop here, spin it, and hackle that on, kind of palmering it forward, just to give some very sparse body to it. Okay, so just kind of looking like that. I'm going to take and spin it with a 90-degree angle, holding my tail back so that we don't get that wrapped up in the spinning process. Don't spin this so hard that your thread pops. Never want to do that. You can come in with the crook of your whip finisher or a dubbing needle or toothbrush or what have you, and kind of anything that got trapped down in that spinning process, I'm going to kind of gently free it, so that all the predator wrap is at its maximum length. We're going to find a neutral point in that thread. You can wet your fingers with water or spit. I have the luxury of having clammy hands, so I don't need to do that. I'm going to pinch that down, and we're just going to start palmering this forward. We're not going to make it super tight on top of itself. We're not trying to create a shoulder necessarily. So I'm just going to treat this more or less like a chenille with long fibers. Just kind of wrap forward, one forward in front of the other, stroking everything back not to trap it down onto itself. And then I'm going to secure that in. We can get rid of our excess loop and dubbing loop tool. Just really get that secured in. And then you can come in again with your pick or your brush and really just make sure everything is going to have nice free flowing movement in there. Rotate your vise around, stroking that all back, looking pretty good. Not super critical. Okay, like I said, that's the most critical or most complex part of this fly. Next, we're going to come in with some Kingfisher Marabou. I've already got prepped here. Spay quality Marabou is what you're looking for. I definitely want those nice wispy ends. I'm going to tie it in by the tip. We want about an inch or more of working material there. Cut off our tip. I'm going to pull that kind of forward, stroke my fibers back, and start to wind forward. And here we are going to do kind of one wrap right in front of the next, kind of tight up against that pred wrap body material. We're just going to use the whole amount here of this Marabou. If it's 4 wraps, it's 4 wraps. Is it 3? It's 3. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use up the about an inch worth of Marabou on there. Get that secured in. Get all my stuff stroked back and out of the way. Trim off our stem. Nice and neat. Cover that up. Great. So we've got a nice kind of poofy, floofy Marabou tube going there. We're going to throw in another bit of flash. I've got this kind of blue tinted pearlescent crinkle mirror flash. I'm going to grab like 2 or 3 strands. Whoops, kind of cut that guy a little short. Try and get this on camera for you guys. So right off of one side, I'm going to grab like 3 and cut it very close. Get that out of the way. So I got 3 here, that's okay. 2 is fine too. And I'm going to tie it in at the halfway point. With a little pinch wrap. And I'm just going to kind of V this over the top of the fly there. Okay, nice and secured in. And then lastly, we're going to come in with some black Marabou. Again, I've already kind of got prepped. And we're going to tie it just like before, tie it in by the tip. If I can get that. And you'll notice we have kind of a convex concave side. You definitely want to tie it in so that it is going to naturally want to lay back with you as you're pulling everything back. This guy, I'm not worried about cutting that tip out. This is some pretty wispy spay quality stuff. Good, I'm going to pull this forward as I'm stroking back for this first wrap. And if it's a very delicate stem, be gentle on that first wrap, because you're either going to pull it through the thread and slip it out, or you're going to break that stem. So just make sure with that first wrap, you're just being kind of ginger with it. And then once you get it going, you can kind of really get going. Get it wound on there. And we're going to use up, again, that whole inch and a quarter's worth. Enough to have volume, but not so much that it turns into a big wet mop in the water stuck together. We want material to flow and have undulation and that kind of thing. Secure that in. Now, like I said, this is a very versatile fly pattern. Within the body of this fly, you could have slid in a tungsten or lead weight, like one of the Pro Tube weights, or you can go on, let me trim this out, or if you need weight at all, you could even grab one of the Aqua Flies cone heads in whichever color you see fit, which slide right on perfectly to the 1.8 millimeter tubing, and you would secure that in afterwards. But we're going to do some whip finish here. I'm going to leave this one as a completely unweighted fly for the conditions I have currently. I'll be out tomorrow in somewhat low, somewhat clear, cold water. I don't need a whole lot of weight here. I can just adjust my sink tip to get the fly down. Do a couple whip finishes here to really make sure this is secure and durable. Get that knot nice and seated. Trim it off neatly. Okay, then what I like to do is throw in a little zap-a-gap, or you can do your UV stuff. Zap-a-gap, I like that it soaks into the thread and I don't have to have a flashlight for it or anything. Just nice and neat, clean head. Get on my dubbing needle here, touch it on there. Get some kind of all around without really getting the materials involved there. And there we have it. Pop it off the needle. And then I'm going to just trim off the excess tubing. I like to use a nice stout razor blade. Just a single edge blade. Slice right down on my tying mat. And then I get a nice close cut without collapsing the end of the tube. Get a nice little melt on there. And there we go. If you're worried about closing that, oops, which I kind of just did. There we go. You can take and shove it on your needle. And now that hole is open, and there's our fly. So again, nice versatile. You can weight this in many different forms or go unweighted. You could add some hackle tip wings over the top. You could throw some ostrich in there. You know, there's a few different ways you can go about it, but this is kind of the, let me get that facing the right way there. It's kind of the guide style version of it. Very quick, very simple, minimalistic, effective winter steelhead fly that you could use pretty much year round in certain conditions. So anyway, there you go. Enjoy, and hope you guys get out there and have a great winter steelhead season. If you need help with anything, definitely give me a call, 503-737-4890, and we'll get you out on the river and into some fish. Have a good day. Thank you.